sometimes we're making money, but we're making money doing something that makes us miserable. And is that really success? For me, no.
Hey, I'm, over 40 and I don't want to be doing all this stuff all the time. Like I want a business that works for me. I don't want to be like chained to my business or feel like I have to work every single day, 12 hours a day in order to be successful and make money. So I shifted that in my own business and now I'm helping people with that as well.
Welcome to the Worth It podcast. I'm Megan Taylor, coach for the brilliant minds and the rare ones who are always growing. I have helped ambitious women and men, business owners and leaders from around the world with defining and expanding their unique work, having the relationship that they actually want, and creating the life that makes all of the work feel worth it. Every week on the podcast, we discuss the key pivots that I coach my clients on and the real work required in order to be a leader and the woman or the man that you're here to be. With that, let's get started. Today's podcast interview is with a former mentor of mine, Jenna Faith. Jenna is one of the real ones. She's a Latina woman who's also a mom, and she comes from a background of having a strong work ethic. And so she's no stranger, just like many of my clients, to working hard, but she wanted to figure out, how do you make it all easier and how do you create more money while also creating more freedom for yourself, to give women the possibility of being able to have more options, to have the lifestyle they want, to have success that actually feels like success, and also to be able to have options that they might not otherwise. You're going to love this episode if you want to know more about what it looks like to let go of what other people think, to bring in streamlined systems and structure so that your business actually has your back, to see what it's like behind the scenes in an industry where a lot of people are showing flashy hype, to actually be the type of woman who brings the strong coaching and the deliverables that people are really looking for, that makes people stay for a long time. Let's get started. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the podcast. I am super excited. I have a special guest today, Miss Jenna Faith. Hi, Jenna.
Hi.
Jenna is somebody I have been following for a long time in the coaching industry. She is one of the OGs, one of the realest ones around that I adore. I've worked with you before and you've been a fantastic support. And I'm just so excited to have the people in my world learn more about you. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. So I am Jenna Faith. I am a mindset and business coach, and I have been in the online space for over 11 years. And there's been lots of ups and downs and lots of things that I've learned that I hope we get to talk about today in our conversation here. And one of the things that I just really like, my mission really is just to help people, women mainly, create wealth and freedom with their online business. I am a marketing expert, marketing genius. And, I feel like there's just so much more to business that we can learn and take on to really create something sustainable for ourselves that affords us the lifestyle that we want, allows us to maybe get out of situations that we don't want to be in anymore. And we need money for that, right? So I have no shame in saying that I love to help women make more money, but also the strategies that I teach on the business side help you also create freedom, which is what we all want in our business. A lot of people start their business and they basically give themselves their job. So I like to help my people actually create systems to not be chained to their laptop, not have to be on their phones while they're on vacations, and really also have that time freedom along with the financial freedom.
Can you share more about what you mean when you say systems?
So I know you're a systems gal, and that's one of the things, you and I connected on. For me, really, it's like strategies. So marketing strategies that you're putting into place, team that you're putting into place, and just, instead of reinventing the wheel, which is, I feel like, something that is kind of taught in the online space, it's like continue to create new things and put new stuff out there. And I'm just like, hey, why are we recreating the wheel all the time? Why don't we put a system around what works so that you can literally just flick on a switch and basically make money on demand or call in clients on demand?
Is that something that's like a newer pivot in your business in terms of how you support women with creating more freedom?
Back in the day, I was helping people with funnels. But now I just, with the changes in the online space, have really been leaning more towards that versus, just creating new stuff all the time. So I noticed in my own business, like, hey, I'm, over 40 and I don't want to be doing all this stuff all the time. Like, I want a business that works for me. I don't want to be like chained to my business or feel like I have to work every single day, 12 hours a day in order to be successful and make money. So I shifted that in my own business and now I'm helping people with that as well.
At what stage in your business did you find yourself working longer hours and craving more of that sense of freedom that led you to doing the systems?
Yeah, I would say it was probably like right before COVID. So around like 2020,
Oh,
I had been just going, I'd been going for
mhm.
like 5, 7 years, somewhere around there. And it was fun
Yeah.
at the time and it served me at the time. But then I got to a point where I was just like, this is just going to be exhausting. Like, I cannot keep doing this for the next 5 years, 10 years, whatever. So I need to actually step into more leadership and create an actual real business versus just trying to make money online.
Yeah, that makes so much sense. A lot of the clients that I coach personally are women who created a lot of success off of their own hard work ethic. And then you reach a point where you're like, maybe I could keep doing this if my health can keep up with it, if my kid can keep handling the fact that I'm not as available as I would like to be, different kinds of challenges like that. But then really there's these shifts, the leadership to your point, also the internal shifts, but not just the internal, but also you need to evolve the business, right? In order to match what it is that you're declaring that you actually want for yourself and feeling worthy of that, right? That's at least been my experience with my clients. I'm curious, when it comes to creating more freedom, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've seen your clients or successful women that you support? What are some of the biggest challenges to shifting into that type of business?
For me, it is just seeing that I can keep doing it this way, right? But is
Right.
it really going to serve me long term? Right. But also because a lot of the people that I work with have been established, have been in business for a long time. I was in this business for a long time before I decided to make that shift. And it's just like you just revert back to your old ways because that's what or that's what worked in the past. So I see a lot of people struggle to just let go of things that they've created in the past, and it's just like, oh, but that's like my baby, or, that's just the way that I've always done it. And it's hard to like pull and actually make an intentional shift of like, actually, that's kind of working, but it really isn't. And I'm being intentional in making a shift to create something that actually does work and is going to work even without me in it. And that was another shift that I had as well. I was working with a mentor, business partner who was really into, well, like his business is buying and selling businesses, mostly offline businesses. But him and I talked about like, hey, can I sell my business? And looking at my business at that point, I was like, there's no way I could sell this business because it's just me. And if I take me out of the business, there's no systems, there's no structures, like nobody would ever want to buy it in its current state. So that was a huge mind shift for me in terms of like, I want to create something that's not only sustainable and, creates longevity in the business, but also that if I want to sell it in 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, it's built to sell.
How do you, especially when you're a personal brand and when your clients, seek you, and I've worked with you before, Jenna. I know you have the Meant for Millions brand, which is, massive as well. I'm curious, like, what have you learned through the process of experimenting with the personal versus what would you call that? The business brand, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually really glad that you brought this up because that was another huge shift that I had actually last year when I spent some time in Florida. And it was really just this idea of like, how can I merge these two things? Like, that was what was in my head of like, how can I
Right.
successfully like do both, right? Be Jenna Faith, the personal brand, and then have Meant for Millions, which is my coaching business. And that mind shift also was like really pivotal for me because I was like, hey, I am me, obviously, right? I can do whatever I want as a personal brand. And then underneath me, I have different parts, right? So part of that was like the coaching business, obviously, is one. Partnerships with other people. I was going to partner with my mentor that sells businesses. So like I can do all of these things under my personal brand. And once I started to look at it like that, I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense. Because even if I were to sell my coaching business, there's still Jenna Faith,
Mm-hmm.
right? And everything that I do under that, and me as a person, as a human, my personality, different little things that I want to do, maybe affiliate stuff, collaboration. So I still get to do all of that stuff under my personal brand.
And that's like a next level kind of freedom, right?
Yeah. It's a part of it, but it's a completely separate part.
So cool. Well, okay. I love hearing more about your work. I really want to dive in and hear a little bit more. You've been in business for, you said 11 and a half years, right? What are some of the things that you personally have been challenged by and shifted, especially I'm curious in the last couple of years, because I'm sure throughout the life of your business, you've probably always had like a string of help, like this theme of helping women make money through freedom. And I don't know how it is for you, but for me, what I find is my mission takes multiple evolutions. And like I've personally have been through a lot of changes in the last couple years, and I would just love to catch up on what are some of the challenges you've had and some of the brave, courageous decisions you've had to make in favor of yourself and of your business.
Yeah, and the personal piece is really important. I'm so glad that you have these conversations all the time and you talk about this because they really go hand in hand. As much as you try to like separate, like, oh, this is my business life and this is my personal life, like one does
Yeah.
affect the other. And, I would say like those big changes for me again happened around 2020, where it was just like, okay, I have to think differently, I have to act differently, I have to lead differently. Like, what am I going to do now? It's tough. Like I have been through a lot of things in the last 11 years, and I always say like I love that you use the word evolution because I feel like your business isn't going to stay the same because you're not the same. Like you're going to grow, you're going to evolve, you're going to get better at what you do. You're going to get mentorship, you might shift your whatever it is that you're doing, like you grow. So your business of course is going to evolve. So I always say like if you see somebody that's like just doing the same thing for the last 10 years or even 5 years, like that's just an indication to me that they're not growing, that they're not evolving, right? So they're staying, they're
Yeah, great
stagnant
point.
because they're not moving, right? So
Yeah.
it's part of it, right? It's part of it. And I've had some, personal BS go on. And, I personally have been able to kind of keep that separate, and not let it affect my work. But like you and I were talking about previously, like it does affect you, whatever's going on in your personal life, whether that's health issue, whether that is relationship issue, like to maintain composure and to maintain leadership in your
Yeah.
business, like it's a choice, and it's intentional. And some people can do it and some people can't.
Did you find that that came easily to you, or was that something you had to cultivate?
For me, it came naturally. It was just if we went into if we had hours, we could go into like my whole history. But I tend to be the type of person that's like I just move forward, and I'll tuck the things in the back of my mind and I'll just compartmentalize it and keep going. It's actually something I do help my clients with, like on the mindset side when we work together. It's like how can you separate it? And the way that I started to look at it was like, okay, my business really is my job, right? Like if I don't show up for my job, what's going to happen? I'm going to get fired. If I don't do a good job in my, work, I'm going to get demoted. Somebody else is going to get promoted. So I always looked at my business, even though it was something that I'm really passionate about and something that I love, like it's still my job. I have to show up. If I don't show up, like number one, my people aren't going to be able to, benefit from my gifts, but I'm going to get fired, right? Or I'm not going to get hired, or I'm not going to get promoted. I'm not going to get recognized. So that's how I kind of kept those two things separate, because even if you're going through personal things or relationship stuff, like if you're working a 9 to 5, you're working a regular job, like you still have to go to work, right? Like you still have to show up and you still have to put food on the table and do all of those things. So I did start to look at my business like this is my job and I have to show up as if
Mhm.
I'm the best, as if I'm, I want to get a promotion, I want to get a raise, like all of those things. So I just started to look at it a little bit differently in that sense. And that
Mhm.
allowed me to keep, what was going on personally separate.
So what else has been coming up for the last couple of years for Jenna specifically? Since you had that part like solid, you're like, okay, I can navigate the highs and lows when life is lifing. What
Mhm.
else have you been moving through? We want some of the behind the
Yeah.
scenes.
Yeah. So, like I mentioned briefly, last year I moved to Florida. That was something that I do feel like for me, it was like really courageous. Like, it was just like, it was the first time in my life personally where I just knew instinctively that I had to go. And, I've
Mhm.
been pretty much in the same tri state area of where I grew up for 40 years. So I had an opportunity to move to Florida for a few months. It was only supposed to be 4 months, ended up being 9 months. And I had always wanted to move to Florida. It was always on my mind. I was just going to kind of wait until my son was done high school. And I got the opportunity and I was like, okay, well, he's way not even in high school yet. Like, what am I going to do? So I was like, let me just go down there. I felt in my heart like that the opportunity was just beautifully manifested to jump into an apartment in St. Pete, Florida. And I didn't check with anybody. I didn't even check with my son. I didn't check with my son's dad. I didn't check with my mom. I didn't check with anybody. I was like, I'm going to Florida. And I made the decision on my own. And for me, it was just so courageous because it was the first time where I felt like full self autonomy. Like I'm doing this for me because I want to do it and I'm not checking in with anybody. And so it was amazing. I was just really going to go down there and explore the state and see where potentially I might stay long term. And I ended up staying down there for 9 months. It was amazing. It was incredible. It was beautiful. Behind the scenes, like essentially what I want to do is create additional freedom for myself so that I can kind of live in both places.
So what does creating additional freedom look like for you?
Definitely more income. I
Okay.
feel like that's, everybody. I'm actually doing a program right now called Freedom Income Formula. And that's really what it's about. Like, it's just like, what is that number for you? Because I also feel like the internet will like put, these parameters of success on you. Like, okay, well, if you're not making X amount of dollars per month, or you're not doing this, or you're not doing that, it means you're not successful. So I first feel like we need to define our own version of success, like what does success mean to you? And then in terms of that income that is required to really just do, be, and have anything that you want. So essentially, I would need to pretty much double my income because I'm going to need another house down there. I'm going to need another car down there. I'm going to need like basically a second life in another spot. So,
Right.
for me, like that's a big goal for me because I love it down there and I want to be able to travel back and forth without worrying about anything, and also creating the business that allows me to like, hey, I'm going to be on a plane tomorrow. We can't chat, you know what I mean? But knowing that I still have money coming in, my funnels are working, the things are working behind the scenes to support me in that.
I love that you're taking the time with your clients to define what success actually looks like, because I think a lot of times we can get into business and get fixated, like you said, on a particular number. It's like, oh, success looks like 7 figures, for example. And if I'm anything less than that, or if I have an income dip, I'm not being successful. But we have to take a look as well at like what gains are we making when we're gaining income or losing income? For example, sometimes we're making money, but we're making money doing something that makes us miserable. And is that really success? For me, no. And so we want to take a look at that, but also making it tangible. Like, what does this money actually mean
Yes.
to you? And so for you, it's like the freedom of having multiple homes, still being able to be present with your son, to sounds like more passive income as well. So you have more time freedom.
Absolutely. When I first started in 2013, making 10K months was like the holy grail. Like it was
Right.
like once you hit that 10K month, like that was the marker of success. Like, yes, I made it. And then slowly over the years, I don't know how it went from like 10K months to like 50K months to like 100K months, you're not successful. Now it's like, if you're not making $1 million a month, you're not successful. So I think it's really important to like, pull away from a lot of that talk and a lot of that noise and really like, what do you actually need? What do you
Yeah.
actually need to feel comfortable, to feel good, to feel whatever? Because like you said, not only like, hey, I can make the money, but it's doing something that I hate. A lot of people are making the money and they're not aligned and they're burning out,
Um,
and it's making them sick. And it's like, then they have these huge teams. They have a 30-person team that they're managing now. And then they have all these refunds and chargebacks. So like along with the big numbers comes a big business and big responsibility. So also knowing like where on that scale do I want to be? For me, I know I don't want to be a manager. I like having my nice lean team that, supports me, but some people love it. Some people like want to have all the bells and whistles and have a team of 20 people. And so you have to decide for yourself, what does success look like for you? And what are those markers that are going to indicate for yourself that I've made it, right? Or I'm where I want to be.
mhm.
Happiness, obviously.
Yeah, it's a different kind of freedom, but also requires a certain level of self-responsibility and leadership as well. Nobody's waking you up telling you to do this. You have to wake up and be the decider, and the CEO of your business. Well, this is really cool. So with these next steps of like working towards doubling your income and having 2 homes and all of this, what are some of the biggest challenges that you're tackling right now with creating that?
I talked about this capacity to hold space for people. So I know when I had like certain things going on personally, I was actually was it 2021? I think it was 2021. I had surgery in March and I was out of commission for like about 6 weeks, 2 months, something like that. And then in that same summer, I ended up going back to the hospital for 5 days, obviously totally unplanned. That was a huge
Oh,
shift for me of like, oh crap, like I need to make sure that I have some sort of passive income, some sort of systems to support me. But as I was going through that stuff, like that's where this stuff came to me. Like I have to do something different. Like I've been doing in
mhm.
this business for 7 years, but yeah, it would have been 7 years. That's time, 8 years, and I got to make that shift. It's not
Right.
like you said, you have to make that intentional decision to like show up for yourself and for your business and create something that's going to fully support you. This idea of capacity, right? So like,
Okay, yeah.
holding space for clients, that's the other thing. Like I was saying, if you have a big business, if you have, $1 million a month, that your capacity is for a lot of clients, right? Probably hundreds of clients, potentially thousands of clients. And I've always kept my business like pretty small. Like I love the intimacy of my business. I love the intimacy of my groups. I haven't had groups that have had thousands of people. I don't think I would like it. Part of the increase in doubling my income would be doubling my capacity for how many people I'm going to serve inside of each of my programs. So, that's going to be that is something that I'm currently working on and working through to like how can I expand myself so that I can hold space for and still make my clients feel like I care, and still have that intimate vibe of the group while serving more people. So that's one of the
Mhm.
things that I'm working with and working through right now.
Hi. So I don't know if you've heard, but I've decided to do something a little different. I'm opening up spots on my calendar for you if you are interested in working with me. This is for you if you are a high achiever, an executive, a business owner, a six-figure plus CEO, and you're ready to move beyond the success that you've already created, beyond the money and into the life and the work that you don't need a vacation from. So, this is how it works. This is 45 minutes complimentary to you, where we get on a call together. You come on the call and you share how you're honestly feeling about your life and your work right now. I'll tell you what I think about you, what I see is ready to be shifted, and we'll talk about the real work that you're being invited into so that you can actually make happen what it is that you want. Then we'll talk about different options for working together if you'd like to continue to be supported long term, and we can go from there. So, if you're feeling the pull towards this, your next step is to reach out to me on Instagram at Megan W. Taylor. Send me the word beyond via DM, and I will get you a spot on my calendar.
Yeah, I know some coaches do things like hire support coaches and things like that. Are you exploring that, or are there other options you're considering?
I mean, I have explored it in the past, depending on how big the groups get. Like I kind of do it in increments. So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like kind of move up to like maybe having 30 people in a group, 50 people in a group, and seeing like, can I still maintain that? Obviously, I want to make sure that I have support if I can't do it myself. But again, with having, this type of business, like that's something that regardless of whether I want to or not, I'm gonna have to put something in place where I can pull myself out of the business if I eventually want to sell it. So the way that I'm structuring my launches, the way that I'm structuring my signature offers is to be able to do that. People that are hiring me because they want to learn directly from me. So I'm maintaining that right now.
What motivates you to maybe sell the business one day?
I feel like I would just get bored. Like I'm one of those people, like I just change my mind all the time. Like I get bored with things really quickly. I'm definitely a rebel. So as soon as I start seeing a lot of people doing something, I'm like, I gotta go this
Yeah,
way and
you
I'm
go the
gonna do
other
something
direction.
completely different. So I do feel like, I mean, even I would say probably in the last 2 years, I'm just like, I'm kind of like been there, done that. Like, what's the next thing for me to conquer? What's the next mountain for me to climb? So I do feel like I want to retire. I don't want to be 50 years old having to dance on TikTok, So it's kind of like I do want to create something that I can sell, that maybe I can leave to my son if he wants to take over my coaching business or some aspects of it. Like that would be really cool too. So, just thinking about if somebody were to take over, could they? And creating my business around that.
So I have another question set I remembered I wanted to ask you, which is I want to get your opinion on what's going on with the industry and what people are like really what's happening with the industry and what are people really craving right now?
Well, I think since like 2021, after the whole COVID thing, I think people are really craving community, craving intimacy. They're craving those like live events again, because we weren't allowed to do that for a while. I do feel like people are paying more attention to someone's expertise and their experience and their authenticity versus, the hype. I
Mm,
feel like that theme, while it's still prevalent, I feel like it's going to die pretty soon,
mm,
because people are just, they're buying into the hype and then they're disappointed with what's actually on the inside of the program. And so
mm,
people are actually looking at like what's actually going to help my business or what's actually going to help me versus like this just seems exciting and let me throw my money at it. So I do feel like people are more aware and people are more cautious in terms of what they're going to invest in. They may watch you for a little bit longer than, just jumping in and purchasing, sending you $2,000. Like it might take a while, but that's actually what I do in my programs is like, how do we shorten that time frame? But people do need nurturing, they need to know that they can trust you. They need to know that whatever you're going to deliver, like, or whatever you promise, you are going to deliver. So I do feel, especially the people that I work with, because I work with people who have been in business for a long time or established business owners, like they've done all the investing, they've done all the masterminds and the mentorships and the courses and everything. So they are a little bit more discerning when it
mhm.
comes to what to purchase. So you have to know who your ideal client is and what's actually happening for them, things that they've tried before, and really speak to that piece of them to have them trust you.
How do we continue to build that trust, build the integrity of delivering what we say, help people feel that intimacy in the community? Because I couldn't agree with you more. While serving more people is a big question.
Yeah. I mean, free content always still works. I feel like people got away from good free content. I've downloaded a lot of lead magnets where I'm like, what is this? Like this is crappy, right? Like that is the first thing somebody's gonna see or download from you. Like that's gonna be the determining factor if I'm gonna stay on your list, I'm gonna continue to follow. Like if you give me crap in the beginning, I'm just gonna assume that your courses are crap or whatever. So
Well, yeah, it's like if you go on a
yeah,
date, it's like don't take your date to McDonald's. It's
yeah.
like
Like
show them
this
a
is
nice
what I have to
time.
look up for. So, yeah, I think it's just, really having to show up with your expertise and be really clear also with like who your target is. I feel like in the past we used to be able to be more broad and general and people would just like flock to us, but I feel like now it's like we have to be really clear on like who we're speaking to, who we can serve best and
Mhm,
create content for like the people that will best benefit from our program versus everybody. And that
mhm.
might seem like you are minimizing or, closing yourself off or boxing yourself in. But what I've noticed is that the people that are more niched are actually doing better.
Oh, interesting. And when you say more niched, can you explain what you specifically mean by that?
Yeah. So I feel like there's two different ways that you can niche. And one would be, in specifically what you do, right? So, instead of saying like I'm a social media coach or whatever, like focusing in on, I'm a Pinterest expert. Right.
Mm,
So that would be the difference between like broad social media and then Pinterest or LinkedIn or whatever the specialty is. Right. So I know like you're an expert in that. I know for me personally, as someone who invests highly, like I'm typically looking for the best at whatever it is. So if I want to learn Pinterest or I want to learn LinkedIn, I'm like, I don't want to just hire a general social media person. I want to hire the person who's best at LinkedIn, right? Or the person who's best at Pinterest. So I feel like you can niche that way in terms of what you do, or you can
yeah.
niche in terms of who you serve. So maybe
Mhm,
you are a little bit more broad, a little bit more general, but you're like, okay, well, I'm a business coach for introverts, right? Or I'm a business coach for new coaches who are in their first year of business, So it's like
mhm.
just really getting granular with either what you do or who you do it for.
I'm seeing more and more social media experts who are specializing in focusing like neurodivergent or entrepreneurs with ADHD because a lot of people are seeing an association between entrepreneurs and neurodivergence and them like needing a particular type of support. And so people see that and they identify, right?
Yep.
Which helps build that trust factor more quickly.
Oh,
you know?
absolutely. Because you feel like, oh, that person knows what I'm going through, right? Or they've been through it, or they know how to help me because
Right.
nuanced in these little things. So it really does, like, I know a lot of people, like I said, would think like, oh, this is boxing me in, or it's actually, I'm gonna get less clients, but you probably get more because you're going to get those people who might look at somebody else like generally and think, well, that person can't help me. They're not going to understand how my brain works, right? Or, how I work, or that I have a limited bandwidth or whatever. But if you're specifically targeting those people, there that connection and that trust is going to build a lot faster.
Yeah, and you're going to be able to serve them better because, for example, with you doing business coaching and mindset, when you're with somebody who also identifies as being an introvert, you can communicate at a level that's going to connect with the types of challenges that they have, right? Then you're really solving for two problems. One that's more the business result they're looking for, and the other that's also addressing the internal challenges that they're having, and both usually end up impacting the business growth anyway. So it's really for the highest benefit of all that we niche, not only on the service, but also on who we're serving. That requires a level of intimacy, not only with the work that we do and like what are we really gifted at, what are we really genius at, but also who are we? You have to identify and know yourself to be an introvert, to be able to market yourself that way, and to know intimately what are the challenges of being an introvert while running a multi six figure plus business. The clients that you work with, do they tend to have some of the similar mindset challenges that you've worked through personally?
I wouldn't say all, but a
Yeah,
lot. I do have, a lot of my like best friends are extroverted. A lot of my
yeah,
clients are extroverted, but there is always a through line, right? So the more that you share who you truly are, authentically share your story, people are going
yeah,
to connect with you on different levels. So I have some people that connect with me because I'm a single mom. I have some people that connect with me because I'm my nationality. Like I have, different things,
yeah,
connection points that people have. Absolutely.
yeah.
Make a difference, so we do have to share ourselves as well. It's not just about here's what I do and here's just tons of value, but like, oh, also here's who I am. Like, let's
Right.
connect, because it is
Especially,
really about connection.
yeah, and especially when there's so many coaches out there, right? Everybody can start looking the same, and so the more that we can really share ourselves. And I'd love to know when it comes to sharing yourself online, is that something that comes really naturally to you, or are there certain things like I know you have your no F's given offer, and I'd love to know, are there certain things where you've had to just like let go in order to really come all out and be all Jenna online?
Yeah, I mean, it's been 11 years now, so obviously, in the beginning, it was really hard for me. I'm definitely an introvert. I never wanted to be on camera. Like, now I'm just like selfie queen on the camera all the time, talking to the camera, doing live streams, all of that stuff. But it takes time. So if you're somebody who's like, scared of doing those things or has fear around it, like the only thing that's going to help is to just do it, and I had to force myself to do it, even as an introvert. And now look, but we're also talking 11 years later. It didn't take that long.
Yeah,
It took a few
absolutely.
years, but now it's just like I've just seen so much and done so much and accomplished so much that it's like, I really don't care, like I'm just going
Yeah,
to be me, sell my stuff, like do what I want to do and not worry about what other people think of me. I also think that the people who really resonate with you are really the only people that should matter, because the people who are going to talk or not like what you say, 9 times out of 10, they were never going to buy from you anyway. So it's kind of like it's a good way to weed people out as well by being authentically you and not being afraid to share, maybe controversial opinions or different things.
right.
Like it takes guts. It does take courage to be able to do that and not just like put yourself into a box of like, I am a coach and here's what I'm going to help you do. But like, oh, also, I am a human and
Yeah.
who I am. And this is also
Mhm.
how I can help you.
I'm like you in that, and like your other clients, where we value the personal connection, and I think one of the things that I did love about you is the fact that you are Latina, and I've always loved Latina culture. I'm not Latina personally, but I'd be curious to know more about what it's like for you being a Latina business owner.
Yeah, I
If you would
mean,
like to share anything.
yeah, I'm glad you actually brought that up because last year I started doing, and you and I, you know about this. I started doing some done for you stuff for clients, right? And it was just
Yeah.
funny because my two main clients that I had all of last year, one was a Latina woman who was a therapist turning to a coach, and the other one was a Puerto Rican man. So I was
Oh,
like,
cool.
Latinas are taking over. Like, we're gonna take over. It's interesting because people don't really know. There people make a lot of assumptions online, but I love that I just and it probably is because of my nationality. Like, I tend to attract a lot of women of color into
Mhm.
my groups. I tend to attract people from multiple different countries, like, pretty global in terms of like the types of clients that I have. Whereas, I've heard conversations of like, oh, it's like, all white women, right? Like,
Yeah.
how do you serve those people of color? How do you, do all that? I just naturally, create that within my culture. And I've even had clients, that are like, I'm Puerto Rican too, and I see me in you, and that's why I want to hire you. So it's pretty interesting.
Mm.
I do feel like, sometimes we get left out of the combo because it'll be like a black versus white combo. And I'm like, hey, what about
Um,
us? you know, like
yeah.
there's definitely more, culture in there. And it's cool. I love to see it. I love to see it.
Yeah, that's cool. What do you think makes Latinas in business different from other cultures?
Well, I mean, I can only speak for myself, obviously, but I feel like at least the Spanish culture that I grew up in was very, not to say that women couldn't work or didn't work, but like the man was always the provider and the one who went out and worked and, had the work ethic and all that. I got my work ethic from my dad, who
Oh,
started working as a mechanic when he was 14. And he's just retiring now. He just had a birthday yesterday, he's 68. So he's been
oh,
doing this for a long time, and it's just like, I think it does take courage to step out and say, I'm going to be the boss, right? Like, I'm going to actually
wow.
make this happen for myself. I'm going to create the business. So I do feel like it's a little bit of like, whoa, that's interesting because typically that's the man's job.
Wow, that's really interesting. So, do you find other Latino women who've had a similar background of growing up in the kind of culture or kind of family where the man was the main provider and that they're striking out to figure out how do I be my own boss and how do I also like create this freedom that I want?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I feel
Mm,
like it's within us, like I said,
yeah,
just that work ethic is just ingrained in the Latin culture, I believe, like
right.
not just Puerto Ricans, but like I grew up in a town that was all Italian and then,
Oh, you did?
yeah, all Italian. And my real last name is actually Italian, but it's my married name. So I actually
Yeah.
confuse people. People are like, "What are you?" I'm like, "Oh my
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, like I grew up in a town that was mostly Italian. It was a farm country. Like where I grew up is the blueberry capital of the world. And we had a lot of Mexicans come, to like farm the fields and pick the blueberries. And it's like they just have such this crazy work ethic, and I feel like it's just it really is like a Latin culture thing of like work ethic. And that's like I said, I got that from my dad.
Wow. So did you grow up in Puerto Rico?
No, my
Okay.
parents did. They came to New Jersey, and I was born in New Jersey. Yeah,
Okay. And you grew up in an Italian neighborhood.
yeah. And then I
Cool.
married, and then I married an Italian. So my son is half Italian and half Puerto Rican.
I know a lot of women business owners, as they're looking to grow the business, they kind of wrestle. I remember you had that program, The Hustle and the Vibe. And it's like how that was one of my favorite things that you've offered. I imagine that your cultural background and this upbringing of respecting the hustle and honoring the hustle and what does it mean to put in good work into what it is that you're trying to create, that gives you actually a huge leg up in business because a lot of women are trying to find that inside of themselves. Do you find that you coach a lot of women on that aspect, on work ethic, or is it more like you find women with strong work ethic and you try to figure out how to help them do it easier?
I tend to attract people who are pretty type A, ambitious.
Okay.
Yeah, they're
I was like, because
go-getters.
that's me too.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
like, I know
definitely
how to
I
work.
attract those people, and I do feel like it's because like the reflection, right? It's like I can see that you value your work, that
Yeah.
care about your work, and it's sad because I mean I am no stranger to buying programs and courses and all of that stuff, and it's just like it's crazy because we'll see somebody who's like on the outside, the marketing of the program. And it's just like, whoa, like I can't miss this. I got to be in there. Right. And then you get in there and it's like a shit show. And it's just like, wait a minute. What's going on? Right. And I've gotten lots of compliments, even from you, about like,
Mhm.
how much care I put into my actual program content and,
Yeah.
the delivery and just making sure that like my people, like I want my people to be happy,
Yeah.
which is why I just like have repeat buyers over and over and over again. So, you could build a big business where you promise everything, you get a ton of people in, but how many of those people are going to stay with you long term if once they get inside your world, it's not what you portrayed, and I feel like we're
Right.
seeing a lot of that in the online space.
Yeah, and I actually find it's much easier to retain a client than to create a new one, right? And so anything that we can do to continue to serve our clients at the highest level. And I've always appreciated how you go above and beyond to actually, like, I feel like when I enter into your spaces, it's like I'm entering into a home that's been cleaned and prepared, and like you set the table for dinner. And I'm like, it's this whole experience that I feel like you really put effort into. And I think that's kind of a lost art in a lot of coaching, especially because of the fast pace. People just slam stuff together and sell like secret offers. You're like, come inside and be transformed. And then you get in there and you don't have a transformation. You're disappointed. And we need to be aware buyers, right? But we also need to be aware facilitators and service providers where we go above and beyond to make it extremely easy for our clients to get results and to continue to like innovate and develop like our own way of creating results for people. I want to transition into the work that you're offering now for people to plug into your world. Would you share who are the perfect types of clients for you that really benefit from this type of work, and what are good ways for them to plug into your world right now?
Definitely people who are knowledgeable, who have been online, who probably, I used to work with newbies and, I kind of shifted into like working with multiple different types of people. But my best clients, the people that are going to get the fastest results, the best results, like they've been in business, they're showing up, they're selling things, they have clients, but they're kind of stuck. In terms of like maybe stuck at like 100K a year, 200K a year, and they really want to break that. They may not be like, oh, I want $1 million a month, but 30K months, 50K months. It's like, that's the sweet spot. Like, that's what I found. That's actually the program that you came in on with, which was the 50K slay, because I just feel like, people are touting like 100K months and $1 million months, but it's like that 30 to 50K mark, like that is a sweet spot, making between $300,000 and $500,000 a year is a blessing, for anybody. So I like to help people that I know I can take them from where they are at, maybe around 10K months, a little bit less, to, having those high multiple 5-figure years or multiple 6-figure years, I should say.
So what are some of the best ways that people can get plugged into your world right now?
Absolutely. So right now I'm actually doing something totally insane. I know, Meg, you love my insanity.
Your insanity is my favorite.
I actually put together a program that I was going to sell for $1,000. And it really is a funnels course. So back to our funnels thing of really helping people create a system in their business that allows them to have the time freedom and also the financial freedom. It's called the Freedom Income Formula. And right now I'm actually offering it for free for anybody that wants to jump in. If you feel like you, obviously this is not for somebody who's brand new, because I'm not teaching business basics, but I am teaching you how to create a system with what you already have and how to amplify that and leverage that to basically turn a subscriber into a high ticket buyer within a few weeks.
I love it. So what's the best way for people to get in touch with you about that?
Definitely probably my Facebook page. And that is facebook.com/The Real Jenna Faith. I actually have a brand new Facebook page because I lost mine 6 months ago, which was a total nightmare.
Okay. So everybody go follow The Real Jenna Faith. I'll include your link there in the show notes.
And so then on Instagram at Meant for Millions. And
when is the program starting?
End of August.
End of August. Okay, perfect. So people will see it just in time. Awesome, Jenna. Well, was there anything else you wanted to share? This has been a great conversation.
No, I thank you for having me on. One of the things I always do like to share is, wherever you are doing in your business, like it is so important for you to just stay aligned with who you really are and be you. Like, even if people may not like it, there's going to be a lot of people who do like it when you step out courageously, bold, unapologetically, and just show up and do your thing and let people know how you can serve them. Like, we need more of that. We need more authentic people, and we need more people who actually have the credentials and the experience to help us forward.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. Thank you, Jenna.
You're so welcome.
Hi, lovely. Really quick before you go, it would mean the absolute world to me if you found value in today's episode, if you would take a minute to leave a 5-star review for the podcast. This is going to help other powerhouses like you to be able to find it. Also, I love interacting with my listeners, so I would love to know more about what you thought about today's episode. If you take a screenshot and share it to your Instagram stories and tag at Megan W. Taylor, it's going to notify me, and I actually love to reshare your posts with my audience as well. With that, thank you so much for being a listener, and I am wishing you a beautiful, productive, happy, sexy, lucrative week, and I will see you on the next episode.